everybody out there. Welcome to a very first, I guess not episode, but first edition of the Cancer Specialist Medical Minute Overtime.
I know I'm always excited for overtime when it comes to basketball. How about you, Rick?
Overtime, it's makes me a little nervous. Heart rate goes up, palms start to get sweaty.
It does, but
separates the wheat from the chaff, right?
It does, but this episode is going to be great. We're going to talk about I don't know what we're talking about.
Is it going to be great? Because it sounds like our normal episodes so far. Leave that in.
All right.
That's amazing.
I
will.
So, Danny, this overtime format, because my heart is racing and my palms are sweaty, what can the listeners expect?
Well, the format of our main episodes will remain the same. Episodes on off weeks.
Danny,
I got
Danny
you.
3000 has been plugged in.
I'm too hyped from the coffee. Okay, go ahead.
You need a shimmy. Shimmy for me.
No.
Shimmy, do it.
There it is.
You missed
got
it. Did you see it?
It was quick this time. It was nice.
Very fast.
You leaned
All right.
into it.
All right.
I wish everyone could see how much Rick actually laughs when we record, but he
You can't hear him. He
silently
laughs.
laughs. His whole body just kind of shakes.
Prove it.
I'm going to set up the camera for the next episode.
Rick does laugh at my jokes, by the way. Just letting everyone know that. Rick, let me tell you something here. The format of our main episodes will remain the same. Now we'll be adding short dad jokes and
and more dad jokes?
overtime
so it's the
episodes.
Same format with doesn't
Short dad jokes plus overtime. Does that make sense?
It does.
Okay.
I like where your head's at.
All right. Now, these overtime episodes will be coming on off weeks to discuss everything from sports to life, mostly sports, and to answer questions from our listeners and even things that we didn't get into on the episodes.
Sounds great. And apparently we need to keep our downloads up.
We do. So I'm not going to do a dad joke this episode, Rick. I'm not going to do it.
Are you sure?
Unless you want me to.
I would love for you to give me a dad joke.
Okay. 5 seconds. Hold on.
Is he going to take his book out?
Yep. The book's coming out. Just flipping to a random page here.
Do you just keep it in your briefcase?
I do. What do you call a bear with no teeth?
A grinless bear?
A gummy bear. Boom.
Boom. Roasted.
All right. So
I
what do we have coming in today, Rick?
Well, apparently all the times I'm forced to read our email address for people to send us an email, apparently someone actually took the time and was nice enough to send us one. So thank you, rogue and brave listener, for popping the top off the email.
Now are we identifying this listener?
Yeah.
Okay.
Who
go
wants
ahead,
to
Brad.
read it?
It's anonymous, I think.
Oh, yeah, I'll read it. All right. So this is from OG
Okay.
Keith St. Pierre.
I like it. Keith, shout out to Keith.
Shout out.
Favorite masshole.
All right. Hey, guys. First-time writer, long-time listener.
It's been
In parentheses.
3
in
months.
quotations.
3 months? What has it been? 3 months?
All right. I really appreciate your hot takes of late, especially regarding the NBA. I have to tell you, though, that the guys playing today couldn't hang with the sheer physicality of the guys from the 80s and the early
Jesus.
90s. All right.
This is really the road we want to go down?
The guys back then were just too tough in the 80s and 90s.
Oh, that's it. Tough. Yeah.
The three best guys ever to play were Michael Jordan and either Larry or Magic second. Being a Boston guy, I think we knew that, Keith. We did
Hey,
know
Keith,
that.
question for you. Where's Bill Russell? Because he played before them. And wouldn't they be tougher the further you go back in history? So
Ooh,
arguments
point,
already got holes, more holes in it than a leaking boat.
I'm going to finish this point here. Being a Boston guy, I would take Larry Legend second, but if I had to take Magic, no problem. By the way, none of you guys today could carry any of these guys' jock straps, just saying.
That's an aggressive email.
I don't think anyone wants to carry jock straps, by the way, but it's okay. It's a different era. I agree with you. Different style of play. But I'll tell you this, that, teams back then did not have the same number of players that could shoot the three ball. This NBA is all about shooting the three ball. You can't shoot a three-pointer. You almost don't make the starting five.
This argument is the dumbest argument. The players today are clearly more skilled on average than the players in the era before, who were more skilled on average than the players before. Why? Because they grow up watching the players who are playing do everything they're able to do and then build on it and add on it. To say that a player is the best, you can say a player is the best of their given era, which I think is the fair way to do this. Amongst your peers, who was the best
Right.
player of that era?
Right.
But to go back and look at clips of George Mikan and compare it to LeBron James, it's not the same sport.
No.
So this argument of they're tougher and all that nonsense, in my opinion, it's not true. I think the rules are different, so there's a less, in general, physical style of play today, which is very accurate. But the shot making and the skill level today, you could put any of these guys who shoot the three from the logo at half court in the 90s, and it would be like an alien had been dropped.
Right.
And that's only 20, 30 years ago,
Right.
let alone back, going back before then. So I think why not just give everyone their due and say player X was the best player of their era and leave it at that? Why the cross era comparisons? I feel
Right.
like Keith is holding on to something as a Boston fan
Yeah.
that he just has to cling on to the past like
Yeah.
most Boston fans do in all sports,
Right.
as opposed to where's the
Right.
future headed?
Right.
So anyway, that's my response. Thanks for sending the email.
Right. I'll say, I mean, the number of scores in today's NBA is astronomically higher than in the 80s, 90s. You do not have the number of scores that you did in the 80s, 90s. Now, defense, maybe you could argue, has gone to the wayside a little bit, in terms of...
I disagree. It's different rules. So there's no hand checking rule now. So that means it's going to be less physical on the course. But you have a player like Anthony Davis, you put him in a time machine to the late 1980s, early 1990s, who's going to do anything with that? A 7-footer who can run like a guard a point guard, and protect the rim
Right.
arguably as good as anyone. So I think you have to look at things in the context of their era, not across eras. But I don't, to make an argument that, and this is true in any sport, the generation behind us is going to be, or is already more talented than, as a skill, more skilled on average than the generation before them, because you grow up watching players do certain things that you didn't think used to be possible, and then you expand and build on that.
Why do you think it's become, quote unquote, less physical now? Why do they accept less physicality in the game?
Well, it's more fun to watch, and I think it's the rule changes to make the game a better product for the viewer.
Yeah. You can argue, though, that it slows down the game because you call more fouls when people become physical.
Oh, I think the NBA has a huge problem right now of too much replay, too much play stoppage, no doubt. I think the international game, watching the Olympics, is a much more aesthetically pleasing game because there's less stoppage. Players are allowed to be a little more physical. I'm not saying I agree with the rules that are in place. I'm just saying that's why it's less, quote unquote, less physical and they're less tough, is because they're just playing by the rules that are set in front of them.
I think ideal world, I'm getting to a different kind of topic, but I think they should play less games overall. I think there's too many games.
I mean, that's not again, I don't know what that has to do with Keith's point, but yeah, I don't
Well,
disagree.
the point is, nowadays you watch a lot of stars who are sitting out of games, and when you watch the NBA, you want to see the best players against the best players. But you watch the regular season, you don't know who's playing who and who's playing that game.
You know, I never complained about that in the 80s and 90s. It's because the games weren't even on TV, period. So no, they only aired the playoffs live. The finals were on
or Saturday
in Larry
games,
and Magic's early years, the
Yeah.
finals were on tape delay.
Right,
They didn't even air those games live.
Right.
So again, I'm not disagreeing with you. There probably are too many games and they need to cut it back.
Yeah.
I'm just saying the reason no one complains about it back then is because the games just weren't on TV, period.
So Keith, we're sorry, but we
Love you, Keith.
can't agree with you on this one.
Love you, Keith. Hope Mac Jones
Thanks for listening, though.
is as good as
He is.
everyone thinks he is.
He is.
Okay,
All right.
we'll see.
I'm not allowed to comment on football anymore.
Correct.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, let's
Yeah,
bring it back to
sorry.
basketball. So I think that'll wrap up our first overtime episode. Again, shout outs to Keith. And if any of you out there want to be like Keith and email in a question that gets me fired up, feel free to do so at medicalminute@csnf.us.
So happy you sent out that email, Keith. Keep them coming. I like seeing Rick fired up.
And make sure you guys tune in next week for back to our regular scheduled programming, where hopefully I won't be doing too much complaining about history and basketball.
See you next time, guys.